Have you ever noticed that the tighter you hold on to something, the more painful it becomes when it starts to slip away? Think of water in your hands. If you hold your palms gently, the water rests there peacefully. But the moment you squeeze too tightly, it leaks out between your fingers, leaving you frustrated and empty-handed. Isn't that what happens in life too? We cling to relationships, possessions, titles, even our own ideas about who we are. And the harder we cling, the more anxious, fearful, and restless we become. What if they leave me? What if I lose it? What if I'm not enough? Now here's the paradox. We think holding on keeps us safe, but in reality, it is the very thing that makes us suffer. The Buddha taught that clinging is the root of suffering. And yet, most of us spend our whole lives holding on tighter and tighter, believing that one day, if we just grip hard enough, we'll finally feel secure. But what if the opposite were true? What if real freedom and joy don't come from holding on, but from letting go? Today, we're going to explore mindfulness and letting go through the lens of Buddhist wisdom. And before you think this is about giving everything up and living in a cave, let me reassure you, it's not. Letting go is not about abandoning your life, your loved ones, or your responsibilities. It's about releasing the invisible weight you've been carrying inside, the constant worries, the hidden expectations, the need for control. Imagine for a moment what your day would feel like if you could move through it without being dragged down by yesterday's regrets or tomorrow's fears. Imagine having the clarity to enjoy your morning coffee fully, to listen deeply when a loved one speaks, to rest your mind at night without replaying endless what-ifs. That's the gift of mindfulness. That's the freedom of letting go. And here's something I want you to reflect on. Isn't it strange that we spend years accumulating things, possessions, experiences, memories, yet when we look back, the moments that brought us the deepest peace were often the times we simply let go? Letting go of anger in a heated argument, letting go of needing to be right, letting go of a heavy burden that wasn't truly ours to carry. So the question is, how do we actually practice this? How do we transform the idea of letting go from a beautiful concept into a lived reality? That's exactly what we'll uncover in this video. We'll dive into the Buddhist perspective on clinging and freedom. We'll explore the role of mindfulness in noticing what we hold on to. And most importantly, I'll share with you practical, everyday ways to release what no longer serves you without fear, without guilt, and without losing what matters most. Because here's the truth. Letting go doesn't mean you lose it. It means you gain back your freedom. It means you reclaim the simple joy of being fully alive. And I promise you this, by the end of this video, you'll see that letting go isn't an act of weakness. It's the most powerful step you can take toward peace. So stay with me. In the next few minutes, we're going to walk together through some of the most transformative Buddhist teachings on mindfulness and letting go. By the end, you may realize that the freedom you've been searching for was never outside of you. It's been within your own hands all along. And as a small token of gratitude for joining me on this journey, I've left a free gift for you in the description below, a mindful living guidebook that can support you beyond this video. But first, let's begin with a question that might change the way you see your whole life. If holding on causes suffering, what would your life look like if you learned the art of letting go? 1. The nature of clinging. Let's take a closer look at the real root of our suffering. In Buddhism, the word is dukkha, a kind of deep dissatisfaction, a restlessness that seems to follow us no matter what we achieve. And the Buddha pointed to one core cause: clinging. Now, what does clinging really look like in our everyday lives? It's not always dramatic. Sometimes, it's as subtle as replaying an argument in your head for days. Sometimes it's the quiet panic you feel when you notice wrinkles in the mirror or the worry that your savings might not be enough. Other times, it's the desperate urge to hold on to a relationship, even when deep inside you know it has already shifted, already changed. Clinging shows up whenever we say, "This must stay the same. This must not change. I cannot live if I lose this." And yet, life is built on change. Nothing stays the same. Not our bodies, not our careers, not even the people we love. So the moment we cling, we create a battle we can never win. Let me share a story. Years ago, I had a friend who worked tirelessly for a promotion at his job. He told himself, "When I finally get that title, I'll be happy. That will prove I'm enough." He clung to that vision so tightly that it consumed him. And yes, eventually, he got the promotion. For about 2 weeks, he felt on top of the world. But soon, the same restlessness returned. A new worry replaced the old one. What if I lose this? What if I can't keep up? What if someone else outshines me? That's the tricky thing about clinging. Even when you win, you lose. The relief never lasts, because the very act of holding on creates fear of letting go. I wonder if you've felt something like this too. Maybe you've worked hard to build your life exactly the way you thought it should be. Your family, your home, your reputation. And yet, at night, when things are quiet, you notice a small unease, a question that whispers, "What if it all slips away?" That whisper is the sound of clinging. And here's the deeper truth. The pain doesn't come from the object itself, not from the job, the relationship, or even the aging body. The pain comes from our refusal to accept change. When we resist the flow of life, we create suffering where there could have been peace. I've noticed this in my own life too. For many years, I believed that being seen a certain way, calm, capable, wise, was who I had to be. Whenever I felt anger or sadness, I clung to an image of myself that didn't allow those emotions. And the harder I tried to hold on to that mask, the more exhausted I became. Eventually, I realized clinging to an identity can be just as heavy as clinging to possessions. So, what's the way out? The first step is awareness. To notice when we're holding too tightly. To pause and ask, am I clinging right now? What am I afraid of losing? And is this fear keeping me from living fully in this moment? This is where mindfulness enters the picture. Because mindfulness is not just about being calm, it's about seeing clearly. When we shine the light of awareness on our clinging, we begin to loosen its grip. We start to see that the tighter we hold, the more we suffer. And the more we let life flow as it is, the lighter we feel. So let me ask you, where in your life are you clinging right now? Is it to an old story about who you should be? To an outcome you can't fully control? To a person you love so much that fear overshadows joy? I invite you to reflect on this, even write it down, because simply naming the thing you're clinging to is the first act of freedom. And as we continue, we'll explore exactly how mindfulness can help us release this grip, not by pushing things away, not by rejecting life, but by softening into it. By learning that letting go is not losing, but gaining a peace that clinging could never give us. Stay with me, because in the next part, we'll look at how mindfulness becomes the doorway to that freedom. How a simple, present moment awareness can transform even the heaviest burden into something we can finally set down. 2. Mindfulness as awareness. If clinging is the root of suffering, then how do we even begin to loosen our grip? The answer, in Buddhism, always comes back to one simple but profound practice: mindfulness. Now, let me be clear. Mindfulness isn't about sitting cross-legged for hours on a mountaintop. It's not about escaping life. It's about being fully present within life. It's the art of awareness, the kind that gently shines a light on what is happening inside us, right now, without judgment. Think of it this way. Have you ever eaten a meal so quickly that you barely tasted it? Then, later, you don't even remember if you enjoyed it. That's what living without mindfulness feels like. Life passes by, moment after moment, and we're too distracted to notice. But when you bring awareness to even a single bite, really tasting the texture, the flavor, the warmth, you realize that peace isn't hidden in the future. It's available here, in the simplest moment, if only we're awake enough to see it. Here's why mindfulness is essential when it comes to letting go. You cannot release what you do not first notice. Most of us cling without even realizing it. We replay old conversations in our heads. We tighten our shoulders when someone criticizes us. We scroll endlessly on our phones searching for some form of relief. And we think, this is just life. But mindfulness interrupts that autopilot. It whispers, pay attention. What are you holding on to right now? And how is it making you feel? Let me share a story. A woman once came to a meditation retreat burdened by deep grief. Her husband had passed away years earlier, but she carried his memory like a stone in her chest. She believed that if she ever let go of the pain, she would also be letting go of him. During the retreat, she practiced simple mindfulness breathing, walking, sitting in silence. At first, nothing changed. But one morning, as she sipped her tea with full awareness, she noticed the warmth in her hands, the sunlight through the window, the stillness of the room. And for the first time in years, she felt a moment of ease. Tears rolled down her face, not of sorrow, but of relief. She realized that her love for him was still alive, but the heavy clinging to pain was optional. That's the power of awareness. It doesn't erase life's losses or struggles. It transforms our relationship with them. I found this in my own life too. There were times when my mind was racing so fast that I didn't even notice the tension building in my chest or the way my jaw clenched at night. Only through mindfulness did I start to see these subtle signs of clinging. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. That awareness becomes the seed of freedom. So let me ask you, how often are you truly present in your day? When you wake up in the morning, do you notice the breath filling your lungs? When you speak to a loved one, are you listening with your whole heart? Or are you half lost in your phone? These small acts of presence reveal the places where we cling and the places where we can soften. And here's the beautiful thing. Mindfulness is not about perfection. You don't need to be aware every second of every day. Even a few mindful breaths, a few mindful steps can shift the whole tone of your life. It's like turning on a light in a dark room. You don't have to search for every shadow. The light naturally reveals what is there. I want you to try something today. The next time you feel stressed, pause. Place your hand gently on your chest. Breathe in and notice the rise. Breathe out and notice the fall. Ask yourself, quietly, what am I clinging to right now? You might be surprised by the answer. This is why mindfulness is not just a practice, but a foundation. Without it, letting go feels impossible. With it, we begin to see clearly, and what we see, we can release. So stay with me, because in the next part, we're going to explore what letting go really means in Buddhist wisdom. You'll see why it's not about throwing life away, but about finally setting down the invisible weights you've carried for far too long. 3. The art of letting go. Letting go is not abandonment. Have you ever been told to just let it go and felt a sharp sting inside, as if they were asking you to throw away something that mattered deeply to you? That's where most people misunderstand. Letting go is not abandonment. It's not indifference. And it's certainly not carelessness. In Buddhism, letting go is more like setting down a heavy bag you've been carrying on your back for years. It doesn't mean the bag disappears. It simply means you no longer let it control your every step. Think about this. Have you ever held on to an old resentment? Maybe from a friend who betrayed you or a family member who spoke harsh words years ago. You tell yourself, I've moved on. But deep down, the memory still plays like a broken record. It drains your energy, even in moments when life is otherwise good. That's the weight I'm talking about. Letting go doesn't erase the past. It transforms your relationship with it. Imagine looking at that same memory, but without the burning anger attached. The event still happened, but it no longer defines your present moment. That's freedom. That's peace. But here's the trap. Many people confuse letting go with giving up. They think, if I let go, it means I don't care anymore. It means I lost. True letting go is an act of courage. It takes more strength to release your grip than to keep holding on. Anyone can cling. But it takes wisdom to know when holding on is causing more suffering than letting go. I'll share something personal. There was a time when I clung to the idea of how my life should look. I thought success meant reaching certain milestones by a certain age. And every time I fell short, I punished myself. The harder I held on to that picture, the more exhausted and disappointed I felt. Only when I began loosening my grip, allowing life to unfold at its own pace, did I start to notice beauty in places I had overlooked. The laughter of a friend, the quiet of the morning, the peace of being enough, right here, right now. And maybe you've had a similar experience. Perhaps you've tried to control someone else, hoping they'd change, love you differently, act in a way that matched your expectations. But control often backfires. The tighter we cling, the more things slip away. Letting go, in this sense, is not abandoning the relationship. It's creating space for it to breathe. It's saying, I release the need to control. I allow things to be as they are. Ask yourself this: what am I holding on to today that is quietly weighing me down? It might be a grudge. It might be an old dream that no longer fits who you are. Or it might simply be the idea that you always need to be in control. When you identify it, notice how your body feels. The moment you even imagine releasing it, something inside you softens. That's the beginning of freedom. Here's the beautiful paradox. Letting go does not make you weaker. It makes you lighter. It doesn't make you careless. It makes you more compassionate, because you're no longer acting from fear or attachment. You start to respond rather than react. And let me be honest, this isn't something you master overnight. It's a practice, one breath at a time. Some days you'll find yourself holding on again. That's okay. The practice is simply noticing and gently loosening your grip once more. So next time someone tells you, let it go, don't hear it as, throw it away. Hear it as an invitation to lay down what no longer serves you and to walk forward lighter, freer, more alive. Because in the end, letting go is not about losing. It's about gaining back the peace that was always yours. 4. Freedom through impermanence. Finding true liberation. Have you ever noticed how everything in life is always moving, always shifting? The seasons change, children grow, friendships evolve. Even the emotions we carry from moment to moment, nothing stays the same. And yet, so often, we live as if things will last forever. We cling to them. We hold on so tightly that when change comes, and it always does, we suffer. This is where Buddhism offers us a gentle but powerful truth. Impermanence is not something to fear, it is something to understand. Because when you see that everything is changing, you no longer have to fight reality. You can begin to flow with it instead of against it. I remember a time in my own life when I was desperately trying to hold on to a relationship that was clearly ending. I kept hoping, negotiating with reality, refusing to accept the truth. And the more I resisted, the more pain I created for myself. It was only when I finally sat still and acknowledged this too is impermanent that I felt a strange sense of relief. The grief was still there, but the desperation to control was gone. Have you ever felt that kind of release? That moment when you finally stop fighting what is already happening? Impermanence teaches us that freedom is not found in holding on, but in letting go. Imagine a butterfly landing on your hand. If you squeeze too tightly, you harm it. But if you let it rest lightly, you can enjoy its beauty while it's there. Life is the same. The people we love, the opportunities we're given, even our health and our bodies, they are all visitors. They come, they stay for a while, and then they leave. The question is, can we love fully without needing to possess? And I know, that sounds simple, but in reality, it's one of the hardest things to practice. Our culture teaches us the opposite: to build, to protect, to own. We attach labels: my job, my house, my partner, my success. But what happens when those things slip through our fingers? Who are we then? The Buddha's insight is clear. When we see impermanence deeply, we no longer live in constant fear of loss, because we already know it will pass. The pain will pass. The joy will pass. Even our worries, which sometimes feel endless, are not permanent guests. This understanding opens the door to true freedom. Freedom from the desperation to control what cannot be controlled. So, let me ask you, what in your life are you clinging to right now, even though deep down you know it's changing? Is it a relationship, an identity, a dream that no longer fits who you are? Imagine what it would feel like to gently set it down, not in anger, not in despair, but in trust. Trust that life continues to unfold. I believe this is where mindfulness comes in. Every time we pause, breathe, and notice what is happening right now, we are training ourselves to live with impermanence. The breath itself is the perfect teacher. Inhale, exhale. Each moment arises, each moment falls away. We don't need to hold it. We just experience it fully, then let it go. And the irony is beautiful. When you stop clinging, you begin to truly appreciate. A flower is more precious because you know it won't last. A conversation becomes sacred because you know it cannot be repeated in exactly the same way. Impermanence doesn't make life meaningless. It makes it radiant. So, as you reflect on this, I invite you to sit with one question. What could you release today so that you can breathe a little more freely tomorrow? And if this message touches you, share it with someone who might need the reminder that change is not the enemy, it's the very fabric of freedom. 5. Practical step number 1. Mindful breathing. You know, one of the simplest yet most powerful doorways into mindfulness and letting go is something we often overlook: our own breath. It sounds almost too simple, right? Just breathing. But here's the thing. The breath is not just air. It's a bridge between your body and your mind, a bridge between the storm of your thoughts and the calm that's always waiting underneath. Let me ask you this. Have you ever caught yourself replaying an argument or worrying about something you can't control? Your body is sitting still, but your mind is running a marathon. In those moments, the breath is like a gentle hand reaching out to guide you back. When you pause, when you take one mindful inhale, one mindful exhale, suddenly there's space. Space between you and your thoughts. Space between the gripping, the clinging, the holding on so tightly. And in that space, letting go doesn't feel so hard anymore. Now, here's the practical step I'd like to invite you to try. Mindful breathing. Not complicated, not mystical, just real, simple practice. Imagine you're sitting quietly, maybe on a chair in your living room, or even in your car before you walk into work. Close your eyes for a moment. Take a slow, deep breath in. Feel the air filling your lungs, lifting your chest. And as you breathe out, Notice the weight, the tension, the tightness you've been carrying, softening, melting, just a little. It's almost like your breath is whispering, you don't have to hold on so tightly. And here's the beauty, mindful breathing doesn't just calm you down in that moment. It also shows you something deeper, that your thoughts, your worries, your attachments, they come and they go, just like the breath. You can watch them. You don't have to be trapped by them. I'll share a quick story. A woman I know used to struggle with terrible anxiety, especially in conversations with her family. Every small disagreement felt like a storm inside her chest. When she learned mindful breathing, she began pausing just 3 conscious breaths before answering. At first, it felt strange, but slowly she realized those 3 breaths gave her enough space to respond with clarity instead of reaction. The storms were still there, but she no longer felt drowned by them. That's the gift of mindful breathing. It's always available. You don't need equipment. You don't need a special setting. You carry it with you every moment of your life. So next time you feel yourself clinging to anger, to stress, to that thought you can't let go, try this. Place one hand gently on your chest. Breathe in, slowly. Feel your body rise. Breathe out, slowly. Imagine your grip loosening. Imagine setting down what you've been carrying. Even if it's only for that breath, you'll taste a little freedom. And the more you practice, the more natural it becomes. Breathing with awareness teaches us a truth at the heart of Buddhism. Nothing is permanent. The inhale arises, it peaks, it passes. The exhale arises, it peaks, it passes. So do our emotions. Sometimes we think letting go means pushing things away. But actually, letting go is the opposite. It's allowing things to flow, to come and to go, without our desperate grasp. Mindful breathing helps us see that truth, not just as an idea, but as a living experience in our own body. I'll be honest, I practice this myself. When I feel overwhelmed, I come back to the breath. Sometimes it works instantly. Sometimes it takes a while. But every time, it reminds me that peace is not out there, waiting for the world to change. Peace is right here, in this moment, in this breath. So here's my gentle challenge for you. Today, find just 3 moments, morning, afternoon, evening, where you pause and take 3 mindful breaths. Don't force it. Don't try to fix anything. Just breathe, observe, and soften your grip. See how it feels. And if this practice speaks to you, stay with me as we keep exploring more ways to bring mindfulness and letting go into daily life. Because each step, each breath, is part of a journey toward a lighter, freer heart. If this message resonates, I'd love to hear from you. Share in the comments how mindful breathing has helped you, or even your challenges with it. It may inspire someone else watching right now. And if you'd like to keep walking this path together, make sure to subscribe, because in the next part, we'll dive even deeper into practices that can transform the way you experience life. Remember, you already have the tool. It's right under your nose. Breathe, observe, release, and step into freedom. 6. Practical step number 2. Observing thoughts. Recognizing this is just a thought, not me. Have you ever noticed how easily we get carried away by our own thoughts? One small worry comes in, did I say the wrong thing? And suddenly it becomes a whole story in our head. They must be upset. I probably ruined everything. Maybe I'll never be good enough. And before we know it, we're drowning in a storm that only existed in the mind. But here's the shift that mindfulness invites us into. What if, instead of being inside the storm, we could step outside of it and simply watch? This is the practice of observing thoughts. It sounds simple, but it is one of the most powerful tools in Buddhist wisdom. The moment we pause and say to ourselves, "This is just a thought, it's not who I am," something begins to change. The thought loses its power to control us. Think about it like this. Imagine you're sitting on the side of a river. Thoughts are like leaves floating downstream. Some are beautiful, some are heavy and dark. If you jump into the river, you'll be swept away. But if you stay on the bank, you can just watch them pass. You don't have to chase them. You don't have to fight them. You simply observe. Now, you might be wondering, but what if the thought feels so real, so overwhelming? That's exactly why this practice matters. When you're caught inside a thought, it feels like truth. But when you observe it, you see it's just a passing mental event. The mind produces thousands of thoughts every day. They rise, they fade, they disappear. Not every thought deserves your belief. I'll share something personal. Years ago, I struggled with constant anxiety. My mind was always busy with what-if scenarios. What if I fail? What if I lose? What if they don't like me? It was exhausting. The turning point came when I learned to pause and say, "Wait, this is only a thought, not a prophecy, not my identity, just a thought." That tiny shift gave me space to breathe, to choose how I respond instead of reacting on autopilot. This is also why monks often smile even when life is uncertain. It's not that they don't have thoughts, it's that they see thoughts for what they are like, clouds passing through the vast sky of awareness. You are not the cloud, you are the sky. So the next time worry shows up in your mind, try this. Don't fight it, and don't believe it right away. Just notice. Say softly to yourself, "Ah, a thought has arrived." Breathe. Watch it. And then let it float away like a leaf on the water. What you'll discover is a new kind of freedom. A freedom that doesn't come from fixing or controlling every thought, but from no longer being controlled by them. And I want to ask you, what would change in your life if instead of being pushed around by every anxious thought, you could simply observe and let it pass? Would you feel lighter, calmer, more at peace? If this resonates with you, take it as an invitation. Tonight, or even right after this video, when a thought comes, pause. Look at it. Label it. Just a thought. Then return to your breath, or to what's right in front of you. This small practice, repeated again and again, can completely transform your relationship with your mind. Because at the end of the day, you are not your thoughts. You are the one who notices them. And that awareness, that gentle, mindful observer, is the deepest part of you. If this message speaks to your heart, consider sharing it with a friend who might need a little peace today. And if you'd like to continue exploring these practices together, make sure to stay connected with this channel. Every week, we dive deeper into the wisdom of mindfulness and Buddhism teachings that aren't just philosophy, but living tools for freedom. 7. Practical step number 3. Compassion and loving kindness. Have you ever noticed how heavy it feels when you hold on to anger? It's like carrying a backpack filled with stones. Every harsh word, every memory of being wronged, every resentment becomes another stone. We think we're protecting ourselves, but really, we're only hurting ourselves. What if there was a way to gently set that burden down? This is where compassion and loving kindness come in. And I don't mean compassion in some abstract religious sense. I mean something very real, something you can feel in your chest, like a softening, a warmth that melts the tension inside. When we open our hearts with compassion, forgiveness becomes easier. It's not about saying, "What happened was okay." It's not about denying the pain. It's about choosing not to let that pain define who we are. Loving kindness allows us to expand rather than contract. Because here's the truth. Holding on to anger closes us off, but compassion opens us up. Let me share a story. I once met a man who told me he had not spoken to his brother in over 20 years. They had a bitter argument, and the silence grew like a wall between them. Every holiday, every family gathering, the absence of his brother was like a shadow. He carried this anger, convinced it was protecting his pride. But when he started practicing loving kindness meditation, repeating simple phrases like, "May you be well, may you be happy, may you live with ease," something shifted. He realized that the wall he had built was not just between him and his brother, it was inside his own heart. And when he let compassion in, he picked up the phone. That single call didn't erase the past, but it began to heal it. That's the power of compassion. It doesn't erase what happened, but it transforms how we carry it. Now, you might be wondering, but what if the hurt is too deep? What if the person doesn't deserve my kindness? That's the struggle, isn't it? Our mind wants justice. Our ego wants revenge. But the Buddha taught that holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You're the one who gets burned first. Compassion isn't for the other person, it's for you. It's your way of setting down that burning coal. When you practice loving kindness, even silently, you free yourself. So how can we bring this into daily life? You don't need a meditation cushion. You can start in the simplest ways. When you wake up in the morning, before reaching for your phone, pause for a moment. Place your hand on your heart and think, "May I be at peace. May I be free from suffering." Then, extend that same wish to someone you love. Later, try extending it to someone neutral, like the barista at the coffee shop. And eventually, when you're ready, extend it to someone you struggle with. I've done this myself, and I'll be honest, it's not always easy. Sometimes my mind resists. Sometimes old wounds resurface. But little by little, something softens. The edges of anger begin to dissolve, and in its place grows a sense of lightness, a quiet joy that no grudge can give. Here's a thought. Imagine if every time we felt wronged, instead of tightening our chest and closing our hearts, we whispered, "May you be free. May I be free." What kind of world would that create? What kind of freedom would that bring inside us? Remember this. Letting go is not closing off. It's opening up. Anger shrinks your world. Compassion expands it. If this resonates with you, take a moment right now. Think of one person in your life you've struggled with. You don't need to call them. You don't need to fix the past today. Just quietly send them a thought of kindness. Even if it feels small, even if it feels forced, that's how healing begins. And as you sit with this practice, notice how your own heart feels. Lighter, softer, more open. That's the gift of compassion. It doesn't just change relationships, it transforms you. So the next time you find yourself holding on to bitterness, ask yourself, do I want to carry this stone any longer, or am I ready to put it down and walk forward with a lighter step? Let compassion be your way of letting go. And if you feel this message touch something inside you, I invite you to share it with someone who might need it today. Because sometimes, all it takes is one gentle reminder to begin healing a lifetime of pain. And if you'd like to keep exploring practices like this, don't forget to follow along here. Together, we can keep uncovering the wisdom that brings peace to our hearts and freedom to our lives. 8. Real-life example. You know, sometimes the most powerful teachings don't come from books or scriptures, but from the raw experiences of our own lives, or the lives of those around us. Let me share with you a story that touched me deeply. A story that shows how mindfulness and letting go can transform pain into peace. There was once a woman I met, let's call her Anna. For many years, Anna carried the weight of a broken relationship. She loved deeply, but the love was not returned in the same way. One day, the person she trusted most walked away, leaving behind a silence heavier than any words. And from that day forward, Anna found herself living in a prison, not a prison made of walls, but a prison of memories, regrets, and endless what-ifs. Can you imagine what that feels like? Every morning she woke up with the same ache in her chest. She replayed conversations over and over, analyzing what went wrong. She scrolled through old photos, clinging to moments that no longer existed. And the harder she tried to hold on, the more she suffered. This is something many of us go through, isn't it? The loss of a relationship, the death of a loved one, or even the fading of a dream we once held close. The mind tells us, if I keep holding on, I won't lose it completely. But the truth is, the tighter we cling, the deeper the wound becomes. Now, here's where mindfulness enters the story. Anna discovered meditation almost by accident. At first, she thought, how can sitting still with my thoughts possibly help? My mind is the problem. But she gave it a try. Slowly, breath by breath, she began to see her pain not as something to resist, but as something to observe. Through mindfulness, she noticed how her body tightened whenever she thought of the past. She saw how her chest ached when she replayed old memories. Instead of fighting it, she simply sat with it. She breathed into it. She gave her pain permission to exist without judgment. And in that quiet space, something extraordinary happened. The grip of suffering began to loosen. Letting go didn't mean forgetting, and it didn't mean pretending it never happened. It meant releasing the illusion that the past could be changed. It meant understanding that peace is found not in controlling what is already gone, but in embracing what is here, right now. I remember her telling me once, the day I stopped asking why me and started asking what now, that's the day my healing began. That's the power of letting go through mindfulness. It transforms our wounds into wisdom, our scars into reminders of strength. And what I love about Anna's journey is that it wasn't about escaping the real world or running away from her feelings. It was about meeting life as it is, messy, unpredictable, and sometimes heartbreaking, but doing so with awareness and compassion. And maybe, as you hear her story, you find a piece of yourself in it. Maybe there's something you've been holding on to too, an old hurt, an expectation, a story about how life should have been. What would it feel like to loosen your grip, even just a little? What freedom might you find if you gave yourself permission to breathe again? This is where the teachings of Buddhism are so deeply practical. They're not locked in temples or reserved for monks. They're alive in moments like this, guiding us through the very human struggles we face every day. Letting go is not abandoning. It is returning. Returning to yourself, to the present moment, to the simple truth that peace is always possible. So perhaps today, you might pause, place your hand on your heart, take one slow breath, and ask yourself, what is it time for me to release? If Anna could find peace after years of clinging to sorrow, maybe you can too. Not all at once, not overnight, but step by step, breath by breath. And who knows, maybe your story of letting go will one day inspire someone else to begin theirs. If this story resonated with you, I invite you to reflect on it, share it with someone who might need to hear it, and let me know in the comments, what is one thing you're ready to release? Your journey matters, and together, we can walk this path toward freedom. Because in the end, letting go is not about losing. It's about gaining the space to live fully, here and now. 9. The deeper Buddhist teaching. Have you ever wondered what happens when we finally let go of the idea of me and mine? What if freedom isn't about gaining more, but about releasing what we've been holding on to all along? This is where Buddhist wisdom takes us into a much deeper territory, the teaching of non-self. You see, most of our suffering comes from this invisible chain we carry. It's the constant thought, this is my body, this is my success, these are my possessions, these are my loved ones. And when life changes, as it always does, that chain pulls and cuts deeply. We feel fear, anger, jealousy, grief. Why? Because we believe that all of this was ours. But the Buddha pointed out something radical. There is no permanent self to own or lose in the first place. The idea of I and mine is like a mirage in the desert, convincing from a distance, but empty when we look closely. Think about it. The body you call yours, isn't it constantly changing? The thoughts in your head, don't they come and go like passing clouds? Even your emotions, joy, sadness, love, pain, they rise, they stay for a while, and then they vanish. So, what exactly is this solid self we are defending so fiercely? When we loosen that grip, something extraordinary happens. The walls of separation begin to crumble. The moment we see that nothing truly belongs to us, we also realize nothing can truly be taken from us. And in that recognition, there is a profound freedom. I'll share something personal here. There was a time in my life when I clung tightly to achievements, titles, recognition, even the idea of being important. But the more I held on, the heavier it became. I felt restless, always protecting what I thought was mine. It wasn't until I started practicing mindfulness, simply watching thoughts and feelings come and go, that I tasted a lighter way of being. It was as if life didn't need me to control it. Life was just flowing, and that was enough. Now I know this isn't easy. The mind resists. It whispers, if I let go of myself, who will I be? If nothing is mine, what's the point of living? That's the fear speaking. But here's the truth. Letting go doesn't erase life. It allows us to finally live it without chains. Imagine standing by the ocean. You open your hand and release a stone you've been gripping tightly. At first, it feels strange, maybe even frightening. But then your hand relaxes and the weight is gone. This is what it means to let go of self and possession. We are lighter, freer, more present. This teaching is the heart of liberation. When the illusion of self softens, compassion naturally grows. We no longer see others as separate enemies or competitors. We see them as part of the same flow of life. And from this place, kindness is effortless. So, I invite you to reflect. Where in your life are you holding on the tightest? Is it a relationship? A role? An identity? What would happen if you gave yourself permission to loosen your grip, even just a little? This is the deeper path of Buddhism, not just about calming the mind, but about awakening to a truth that sets us free. And maybe, just maybe, that freedom is what you've been searching for all along. And if this message resonates with you, stay connected. Share this teaching with someone who might need it today, and let's keep walking this path together. Conclusion. So, as we come to the end of this journey together, let's pause for a moment. Throughout this video, we've explored how mindfulness gives us the clarity to see where we are holding on too tightly, and how letting go is not about losing. It's about gaining something far greater: freedom. When we cling, even to what we love, suffering follows. But when we release our grip, life suddenly feels lighter, more spacious, more alive. Think about it. Every burden you've carried, every resentment, every fear, it's like holding a stone in your hand. At first, it may feel small, manageable, but as time passes, the weight becomes unbearable. The stone itself hasn't changed, but your suffering grows simply because you refuse to set it down. Letting go is nothing more than opening your hand and allowing the stone to fall away. It doesn't mean the stone disappears from existence. It simply means it no longer weighs you down. This is what the Buddha was pointing to. Freedom is not somewhere far away. It begins here, in the small choices we make every day. Sometimes we imagine that spiritual liberation requires grand gestures, long retreats, or abandoning the world. But really, it can start with something so simple, so humble. Maybe for you, it's forgiving someone you've silently resented for years. Maybe it's loosening your grip on that perfect image of how life should be. Or maybe it's as gentle as taking a deep breath, releasing the tension in your shoulders, and realizing in this moment, I can let go. Here's a question I want to leave with you. What is one small thing you can release today? Not tomorrow, not someday, but right now. It could be an expectation, a worry, a thought you've been repeating again and again. What would your heart feel like if you could put it down, even just for a while? You see, letting go is not the end of something. It is the beginning of everything. When you set down what is heavy, you make space for what is light. And in that space, peace can finally breathe. And maybe as you're listening, someone's face comes to mind. A friend, a partner, a family member, someone you've seen carrying their own heavy stones. If this video resonates with you, perhaps it might offer them a little relief too. Feel free to pass it on, like a gentle candle flame shared from one heart to another. That's how the wisdom of the Buddha continues to live, not just in temples, not just in books, but in the small acts of sharing, kindness, and compassion. I also want to take a moment to thank you. Truly. The fact that you've stayed with me until this moment tells me something you are seeking, you are opening, you are listening. With your heart. And that's not a small thing. As a little gift of gratitude, I've placed something for you in the description below. Consider it a token of thanks for walking alongside me on this path. And if today's reflection touched you, I invite you gently, not as a demand, but as a shared wish, to join me again. You can do that by subscribing, so we can continue walking together. Each video is another step, another breath, another moment of remembering that life doesn't have to be heavy. So, before you click away, let me ask you one last question. What might your life look like if you chose to set down just one burden today? Hold that thought, carry it with you, and until we meet again, may you be well, may you be peaceful, and may you be free.